There's a big misconception almost everyone believes that avoidant partners are truly strong, independent, and don't need anyone. They make you think their silence is strength, that their distance is confidence. But the truth? It's the exact opposite. And today, I'm going to show you why. Avoidants aren't the emotional superheroes they appear to be. Behind that cold, distant wall lies a deep need to feel loved, validated, and safe, but they're terrified of showing it. They need you more than you think, yet they'll never admit it. In fact, the independence they brag about? It's a performance, a carefully crafted illusion that hides a powerful dependency. And this explains why being in a relationship with them often feels so draining. You're doing all the emotional work while they hold all the control without matching your effort. If you've ever felt like you're the one holding the relationship together while they pull away in silence, this video is for you. Today, we're going to break down the illusion of independence, uncover how avoidants seek validation through withdrawal, and most importantly, I'll show you how to take your power back without losing yourself. Watch until the end, because I'll share practical steps to help you stop the exhausting chase and reclaim your peace. And if you're ready to learn how to love without self-betrayal, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications now, because this is where we learn to love smarter, stronger, and without losing who we are. The biggest misunderstanding about avoidance is believing their silence and distance equal emotional independence. In reality, nothing could be further from the truth. When someone pulls away, most of us assume they don't need me. They're strong. They're self-sufficient. But the truth is, avoidance is not evidence of independence. It's a sophisticated strategy to get needs met without exposing vulnerability. Picture someone wearing heavy armor to protect a fragile heart inside. That's the avoidant person. They crave connection like anyone else, but their fear of being hurt, controlled, or rejected pushes them to build walls. The distance they create isn't because they don't care, it's the only way they feel safe. And here's the paradox. The more they withdraw, the more they actually depend on you to keep the relationship alive. Here's what most people miss. Their independence is a performance sustained by your effort. Every time they pull away, they expect you to pull them back. Every time they go silent, they expect you to speak first. And when you do, what happens? You reinforce their belief that withdrawal works. You confirm their worth without requiring them to invest. This truth hides behind language that sounds reasonable. I just need space. I'm not good at expressing feelings. I need time for myself. You believe it because you love them and you think giving them time will make them open up. But in reality, distance breeds more distance and the cycle begins. They withdraw to you, chase to, they feel safe and in control to you, feel exhausted. This leads us to an important realization. Their so-called independence doesn't truly exist. They still have deep needs for validation, presence, and love. But instead of expressing those needs healthily, they choose the safer route for their ego, hide the need behind withdrawal, and make you do the heavy lifting to keep the relationship from collapsing. Now ask yourself, is this fair to me? Am I sacrificing my peace and self-worth to maintain an illusion of love? This is the moment you need clarity. Love is not a one-way street. If you feel like you're carrying the entire emotional load while they guard their safety with silence, that's not connection, it's imbalance. In the next section, we'll break down the illusion of independence avoidance works so hard to project and why they're not as strong as you think. Stay until the end, because this is the key to taking your power back and loving without losing yourself. Now that you understand emotional distance doesn't equal strength, let's dive deeper into one of the biggest illusions avoidance works so hard to maintain, the illusion of independence. For them, being seen as self-sufficient and untouchable isn't just a preference, it's part of their identity. They often take pride in saying things like, I don't need anyone to be happy, or subtly making you feel that way through their actions. But what's behind that image? A truth that's completely opposite. Avoidants actually depend heavily on validation from others to maintain this image. They want you and everyone else to believe they're strong, autonomous, and above neediness. They feel comforted when praised for being independent, for not being demanding, for not being clingy. These compliments are like fuel, sustaining the mask they've worn for years. Here's the paradox. To keep the illusion of not needing anyone, they need you to constantly adjust your behavior so they never feel threatened. You can't ask for too much. You can't be too emotional. You can't pressure for commitment. In other words, their independence exists only because you accommodate their fears. You walk on eggshells, filtering your words, managing your needs, just to avoid making them feel trapped. And this proves something critical. Their so-called independence isn't real. It's an illusion powered by your effort. Think about how they react when you stop playing along, when you set boundaries, or ask for honest dialogue. They often retreat even harder. Why? Because when you demand authentic connection, their mask is threatened. To protect that image, they withdraw even at the cost of the relationship. The truth is, they don't just want distance to feel safe, they need you to maintain it for them. This makes you part of their protective system. You're not just a partner, you're the guardian of their independence narrative. And that's an unfair role because it forces you to silence your needs to keep the relationship intact. Now ask yourself, are you willing to keep supporting an illusion that leaves you exhausted and lonely inside your own relationship? Or will you choose to break the cycle and reclaim your peace and self-worth? In the next section, we'll uncover something even deeper, their covert emotional dependency. You'll see that despite their image of independence, avoidants rely on others in profound ways. Stay tuned because once you understand this, you'll view your relationship through a completely different lens and with more power than ever before. Once you understand that an avoidance independence is nothing more than a performance sustained by your constant accommodation, it's time to peel back another layer, their covert emotional dependency. This is the part that shocks most people because it completely contradicts the image of self-sufficiency they project. Avoidants often insist verbally or through behavior that they don't need anyone. But the truth is, they rely heavily on others to regulate their emotions, even if they never admit it. They need to know someone loves them. Someone is there for them, even when they give little in return. That unspoken assurance is what allows them to feel safe and valuable. However, their fear of vulnerability prevents them from putting all their emotional eggs in one basket. So what do? They spread their dependency across multiple shallow connections, or at least multiple sources of validation, friends, colleagues, ambiguous relationship. This doesn't always mean infidelity, but it does reveal a strategy. They refuse to rely entirely on one person because that would make them feel trapped or exposed. Another tool in their arsenal is the infamous push-pull dynamic. They move closer when they feel safe or need reassurance, then withdraw the moment intimacy feels threatening. This keeps you guessing. What do they really want? Did I do something wrong? That uncertainty hooks you deeper, making you invest more, texting first, compromising, even changing yourself to restore the connection. Meanwhile, the avoidant achieves two goals. They get the validation that they're wanted, and they maintain control over the pace of closeness. See the cycle? They create scarcity to you, compensate to, they feel secure without facing vulnerability. But long term, who pays the price? You. Because you're carrying the full emotional burden to keep something alive that they're feeding with crumbs just enough to stop you from walking away. Here's the truth you need to hold on to. Their behavior isn't driven by a lack of care, it's driven by fear. They believe that needing you too much means losing power and opening themselves to pain. Ironically, that fear makes them dependent in a hidden, indirect way. So the real question becomes, are you willing to keep playing this exhausting push-pull game, or will you choose to reclaim your power and emotional freedom? In the next section, we'll break down the avoidance obsession with control and why this need for control is actually another form of dependency in disguise. Once you understand this, you'll see why appeasing them never works and what the only real way out of this cycle looks like. After understanding the avoidance covert emotional dependency, let's dig into one of their most misunderstood traits, something many mistake for strength, their need for control. It might look like confidence on the surface, but in reality, this is another form of dependency. Avoidants are obsessed with controlling the pace of the relationship and the level of intimacy. They decide when it's okay to get close and when to pull away. Why? Because control gives them a sense of safety. It allows them to avoid the two things they fear most, abandonment and losing freedom. If they control the rhythm, they believe they can prevent surprises and shield themselves from pain. But here's the truth. This need for control isn't power. It's a defense mechanism rooted in deep insecurity. They don't trust themselves to handle a relationship where vulnerability goes both ways. They fear that if they let go, they'll either be consumed or end up needing you too much. And ironically, the harder they try to prove they don't need anyone, the more dependent they become on maintaining control to feel valuable. Here's another key point. They only feel comfortable being pursued, not being the pursuer. Why? Because being the one who's chased reinforces their narrative. I'm special. I'm the prize. If they had to pursue you, that would shatter their illusion of power and expose them to rejection. That's why you'll notice they rarely initiate reconciliation during conflicts or take big steps forward in the relationship. Instead, they lean on a familiar strategy. Pull away so you'll chase them. Every time you text first, apologize, or compromise, it confirms their sense of superiority and convinces them you need them more than they need you. This is what I call reverse dependency. They rely on your pursuit to validate their worth. If the day comes when you stop chasing, what happens? Their entire control system collapses. And that's why they panic or try to reel you back in, not because they suddenly discovered deep love, but because their ego supply is at risk. All of this leads to a crucial conclusion. Their need for control is undeniable proof that they are far from truly independent. A genuinely secure person doesn't need control to feel safe. They rely on mutual trust, respect, and honest communication. In the next section, we'll expose another subtle but exhausting tactic avoidants use: seeking validation through withdrawal, and why this game keeps you trapped in an endless push-pull cycle. After examining the avoidants' need for control, which is really a form of dependency, it's time to uncover another deeply ingrained pattern: their tendency to seek validation through withdrawal. This isn't random behavior. It's a calculated, almost instinctive survival strategy. Watch what happens when an avoidant senses the relationship moving toward what they perceive as dangerous intimacy. They pull back. It could be fewer texts, sudden busyness, avoiding serious conversations, or even disappearing for days. To you, it feels like a warning sign. What did I do wrong? So, naturally, you try to fix it, you text first, you try to make them happy, you compromise more than you should. You become the one holding everything together. And right there, their power mechanism kicks in. Every time you chase, you send an unspoken message. You matter so much that I'll fight to keep you. What does that do for the avoidant? It feeds their ego. It reassures them that they're valuable, even without putting in equal effort. And most importantly, it keeps the cycle alive. They withdraw to you, pursue to, they feel safe, desired, and in control, without ever confronting their own vulnerability. Sound familiar? This is the push-pull game you've been exhausted by. You think you're fighting for love, but in reality, you're reinforcing their avoidant coping mechanism. The more you chase, the more power they feel, and the more the cycle repeats. Here's the truth. This strategy isn't born from malice, but from fear. Avoidants don't believe they can be loved fully if they show their true self. So they use withdrawal as a covert test. Will you chase me? Will you prove I'm worth it, even when I give you so little? And when you do, they feel secure. But this never leads to real intimacy, only to your emotional depletion. You need to hear this. Every time you play this game, you trade your self-respect for scraps of connection. You're not just feeding their ego, you're abandoning yourself. So what's the solution? Not revenge, not manipulation. The answer is stop playing the game entirely. When you refuse to chase, you send a powerful message. My value is not determined by your attention. And that's when the pattern breaks. The avoidant will feel disoriented because their usual strategy no longer works. This can lead to two outcomes. They step up and start engaging authentically, or they walk away. Either way, you win because you've reclaimed your peace and your power. In the next section, we'll tackle one of the most draining parts of these dynamics: The avoidance reliance on your emotional labor, why they expect you to hold the relationship together, and how to step out of that exhausting role without losing your empathy. After exposing the avoidance pattern of seeking validation through withdrawal, we arrive at an even heavier truth. Avoidants rely on your emotional labor to keep the relationship alive. If you've ever felt like you were the glue holding everything together, this is why. Look at what happens when the relationship hits a rough patch. Who initiates reconciliation? Who starts the hard conversations? Who suggests solutions? That's right, you. Avoidants don't just avoid intimacy, they also avoid emotional responsibility. When conflict arises, they retreat under the guise of needing space, but what they're really doing is pushing the entire burden of repair onto you. They know you'll step up because you care more visibly about the relationship. This creates a toxic cycle. You do all the emotional heavy lifting to maintain connection, while they reap the benefits without facing discomfort or vulnerability. You're the one texting first, apologizing, even when you're not entirely at fault, explaining yourself, smoothing things over. Every time you do this, you teach them something dangerous. I can withdraw without consequences because you'll always come back. This isn't just behavioral, it's reverse dependency. Avoidants rely on you to handle what they refuse to, naming feelings, confronting issues, carrying the weight of emotional maintenance. And here's the irony. While they boast about independence, they're leaning on you for the hardest part of any relationship, the emotional work. You need to pause and ask, is this fair to me? Am I doing both sides of the job just to keep them from leaving? The answer is clear. No. A healthy relationship is never one person doing 100% of the work to keep the flame alive. It requires reciprocity, two people willing to invest and share emotional responsibility. If you keep playing this role forever, what happens? You burn out, you feel unseen, you lose touch with your own needs because you've spent everything trying to manage theirs. And the cruel twist, the more you do, the less they do. They have zero incentive to change because you've been carrying the weight for both of you. So how do you break free? Step 1, awareness, realizing you're not obligated to hold the entire relationship together. Step 2, boundaries, stop automatically fixing things and carrying all the emotional load. Step 3, acceptance. If they can't learn to show up and share responsibility, this relationship cannot thrive. In the next section, we'll tackle the final piece, the avoidance, one-sided need for safety, why they expect the freedom to withdraw without consequences, and how you can protect yourself without drowning in guilt. This is the key to ending the imbalance and reclaiming your emotional freedom. By now, we've uncovered how avoidants rely on you more than they admit, from seeking validation to leaning on your emotional labor to keep things stable. But there's one more element that makes this cycle uniquely toxic. Their one-sided need for safety. Avoidants expect you to unconditionally accept their emotional limitations. They want the freedom to say, I'm not ready to talk, I need space, or I can't go there right now, and they expect you to comply without protest. On the surface, this might sound reasonable if it's occasional, but the problem is when this becomes the rule, they want you to adapt to their constraints without making any effort to meet your very real needs for connection and security. This creates an invisible but profound imbalance. They demand respect for their boundaries while minimizing yours. You're not allowed to ask for more closeness, to say you feel lonely, or to express frustration, because if you do, you risk being labeled too needy, too sensitive, or even toxic. This is how they protect their comfort zone while forcing you to suppress your truth. It doesn't stop there. Avoidants often expect to have the right to withdraw without consequences, yet still want you to be there when they come back. They believe disappearing for days or weeks during conflict is normal, and when they return, you should welcome them as if nothing happened. If you question this behavior or ask for accountability, you're accused of being controlling or demanding. This system gives them a clear advantage. They hold the power while you live in uncertainty. You never know when they'll pull away or when they'll come back, but you keep waiting, hoping this time will be different. In doing so, you give up your right to set standards for yourself. Ask yourself, can a relationship be healthy if only one person feels safe while the other lives in constant anxiety? The answer is no. Love cannot thrive when one partner avoids responsibility and the other pays the price with emotional stability. Here's the liberating truth. You can't control their behavior, but you can control your response. When you refuse to play the waiting game, when you make it clear your needs matter too, you send a powerful message. This relationship only works if we both show up, not if one person keeps all the freedom. In the conclusion, we'll summarize everything you've learned and share a key principle from some of the greatest books on love and self-respect. Real love cannot exist without mutuality. I'll also give you practical steps to apply these insights so you can love smarter, stronger, without losing yourself. We've unpacked a lot of hard truths about avoidance, their withdrawal as a validation tactic, their reliance on your emotional labor, their one-sided demand for safety. But here's the ultimate paradox, the core contradiction that explains everything. They deeply need others to validate that they don't need anyone. Sounds insane, right? How can someone rely on others to prove their independence? Yet this is the beating heart of the avoidant identity. They crave being seen as strong, autonomous, and above neediness. And to maintain that image, they need external confirmation. They need you to admire their independence, to respect their need for space, to interpret distance as strength, not fear. This creates a profound contradiction, a deep dependency disguised as self-sufficiency. They can't sustain the illusion of not needing anyone without your cooperation. Every time you accept their silence, avoid confrontation, and keep waiting, they feel validated. See? I really don't need anyone, and they agree. But the reality is, the very fact that they need your compliance to maintain that image proves they're anything but independent. What's worse, they invest enormous energy into defending this illusion, so much so that they reject real opportunities for connection. They might crave love, but if love threatens the image of independence, they choose the image over intimacy. And the cost isn't just their loneliness, it's your heartbreak, because you've been fighting for a relationship while unknowingly playing a game you can never win. So, here's the question. Do you want to keep feeding this paradox? Because the more you accept their rules, the more you surrender your right to a healthy, mutual relationship. In the final section, we'll pull all these threads together. The illusion of independence, covert dependency, control, validation through withdrawal, and this ultimate paradox of not needing anyone. And I'll share a powerful truth. Real love doesn't thrive in power games. It thrives in mutual vulnerability and courage. Plus, I'll give you practical steps to break the cycle and reclaim your peace. We've peeled back every layer. The illusion of independence, the covert dependency, the need for control, and the ultimate paradox of not needing anyone. What do you see? Avoidants aren't as strong as they pretend. They crave connection like everyone else. But fear drives them to protect their ego, even at the cost of real love. Here's the truth you must hold on to. A relationship can only thrive when both partners dare to be vulnerable and invest equally. If one person clings to control while the other carries all the emotional weight, that's not love, it's a power game. You weren't born to fix someone at the expense of your peace and self-worth. As M. Scott Peck wrote in The Road Less Traveled, love is the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. If your relationship drains you instead of growing you, it's not love, it's fear dressed as love. And as Bell Hooks reminds us in All About Love, love and abuse cannot coexist. If connection requires you to shrink, silence your needs, or live in constant anxiety, then it's time to ask, is this love or just an illusion built on fear? Take this with you today. You deserve a love that doesn't make you chase, doesn't make you prove your worth every day. Real love isn't a game of who needs who less. It's about courage, honesty, and reciprocity. So what now? Stop playing the chase. Stop sacrificing yourself to maintain an illusion. Reclaim your emotional power. Set boundaries. Voice your needs. And be ready to walk if respect and reciprocity aren't on the table. If this message resonated, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. In upcoming videos, we'll dive into how to set boundaries, love smarter, and heal attachment wounds so you can have not just love, but healthy love. Don't miss it, because your journey to peace and self-respect begins the moment you say, enough of this imbalance. I choose better.